There's a moment in every great story where the main character doesn't know what's coming next. Not because the plot has stalled, but because the next page hasn't been turned. The air feels still, the scenery hasn't changed, but somewhere deep inside, in a place even logic can't reach, something is shifting. That's the moment most people mistake as being stuck. But in truth, it's the space between chapters. And if you're here right now watching this video, it might be because you're standing in that unseen gap between the life you know and the reality you sense, but can't yet grasp. The quantum field doesn't work like a clock or a to-do list. It flows more like a symphony, not linear, but layered, not mechanical, but deeply intelligent. And right now, whether you realize it or not, that field holds every version of you that could ever exist. The one who found love, the one who built the business, the one who healed, the one who let go. They're all already there, not in some distant future, but in a frequency that's vibrating right now. And that leads us to a truth you were never taught in school. Manifestation isn't about creating something from nothing. It's about aligning with what already exists. That shift in perspective is the axis on which your entire reality can pivot. You've probably been told to focus on what you want, to set goals, visualize, affirm, and while those tools have their place, the truth is they often keep you in a state of lack, because when you're chasing a future, you're inherently saying, it's not here yet, and the quantum field doesn't hear your words. It responds to your state of being, not what you say, not even what you do, but who you are, vibrationally, moment by moment. Let's pause here. If this resonates with you, it's not because I'm telling you something new. It's because I'm reminding you of what your nervous system already knows. You've had moments, haven't you, when you felt the truth of this? Moments when reality seemed to bend, when something aligned so perfectly, it made you wonder if you were creating or remembering. That's because, in those moments, you weren't trying, you weren't forcing, you were simply in sync, emotionally, mentally, and energetically, with a timeline already alive in the field. And yet most of us are trained to disrupt that harmony. We say we want ease, but we live in resistance. We crave alignment, but we operate from doubt. And the most dangerous belief we carry is this: it's not happening yet, so maybe it's not meant for me. That belief doesn't just delay manifestation, it shatters the frequency entirely. Because here's how the quantum field works. What you feel is true now becomes the blueprint for what you experience next. Not because the universe is testing you, but because your reality is built by resonance, not demands. Imagine this: you're tuning a radio. You want to hear your favorite song, but instead of turning the dial, you yell at the static, play the song. It doesn't work. Not because the song isn't playing somewhere, but because you're not on the right station. Now apply that to your desires. The life you want is already broadcasting. It's not your job to beg for it. It's your job to match its frequency. But that takes more than just positive thinking or reciting affirmations. It requires shedding the old self, the one who believed they had to earn it, prove it, or chase it. It means stepping out of lack and into the vibration of already having. Here's what no one tells you. The field doesn't reflect what you want. It reflects what you are. So if you say, I want abundance but feel scarcity, the field reflects scarcity. If you say, I'm ready for love but hold resentment, the field mirrors resistance. But if you say nothing and simply become the version of you who already lives it, then the field has no choice but to respond. Because to the field, you are the signal. And once that signal steadies, reality collapses, not randomly, but precisely, into the version that matches you. That's why this moment matters more than you realize. Not because you need to do more, but because the field is already listening. And the question it's asking isn't what do you want, it's who are you being? Let's go deeper, because understanding that the quantum field mirrors your frequency isn't enough. You must recognize what frequency you're actually emitting, not just what you want to emit. And that starts with awareness. Raw, uncomfortable, freeing awareness. Not of what's missing, but of what you're unconsciously practicing in your energy every day. What do you wake up rehearsing? The lack, the delay, the not there yet story? Or the version of you who moves as if the desire is already yours, even if the 3D world hasn't caught up? This is where most people struggle. They mix signals, they say the right words, visualize, journal, meditate, but then spend their day thinking, feeling, and acting like the version of them still waiting. And that conflict creates static. The quantum field doesn't know what to reflect, so it pauses, waits, echoes back noise. Here's a truth that might sting, but will free you. The field isn't late. You're just aligned with a reality that can't hold what you've asked for. And alignment happens not through force, but through identity. When you broadcast as the version of you still doubting, checking, waiting, comparing, you stay stuck in what's already manifested. But when you shift into being, everything rearranges. That's why spiritual teachings all return to one principle: be it now, not pretend, not push, but feel it real. And from that state, take aligned action. Quantum jumping isn't some mystical escape, it's emotional alignment. You become so vibrationally stable in this new version of yourself that the field has no choice but to obey, because it can't resist. The wave collapses according to the observer, and when your observation is no longer clouded by doubt, resistance, or contradiction, the shift isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Let me ask you something. Who would you be if you stopped looking for signs? How would you move if the desire was already a memory? What choices would you make if there was nothing left to prove? These aren't just rhetorical questions, they're quantum tuning forks, because in asking them, you tap into a new frequency, one where you stop seeking approval and start living as the embodiment of what you once chased. And that's where the magic begins, not because the universe rewards you, but because you've stopped feeding your old identity with attention. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you no longer need proof, it shows up. Why? Because your signal is clear. Your field is undisturbed. You're no longer broadcasting, "I want this, but I don't believe it." You're simply living in the state of I am. And the quantum field, being both intelligent and neutral, reflects that back without delay. You'll notice it in strange, subtle ways. People treat you differently, though they can't explain why. Opportunities emerge that weren't there before. You feel calm, even though nothing outside has changed, because your inner world has shifted. And that inner shift is the manifestation. Everything that follows is just the echo. Like light bouncing off a mirror, it's not about where the light begins, it's where it lands. And once you realize that, you stop chasing illusions. You stop asking, "When will it happen?" And you start declaring, "It's already chosen me." In the next part of this transmission, we'll explore why so many people feel empty or unsure, even after doing everything right, and how to recognize if the field is already rearranging in your favor. But for now, let this truth sink in. What you want isn't somewhere out there. It's here, waiting for you to meet it at its own frequency. And the instant you match it, it has no choice but to become your new reality. There's a pattern that silently shapes most people's lives. It doesn't shout, it doesn't command, it murmurs. It appears in hesitation, in second guessing, in moments when you nearly say yes to something expansive, but don't. It's the voice that asks, what if I'm wrong? What if I look foolish? What if nothing changes? That voice isn't fear. It's the residue of an identity that hasn't yet caught up to your vision. Because here's what the self-help books don't always tell you. Your old self won't surrender easily. It was built to survive, not to thrive. It was shaped by repetition, by environment, by emotional wounds, and inherited beliefs. And every time you start to vibrate at the level of your desires, that old self panics, because your frequency no longer matches the reality it knows how to control. And what does the ego do when it senses a loss of control? It resists. It clings. It finds clever ways to pull you back to the familiar. It calls it logic. It disguises itself as caution. But what it's really doing is broadcasting confusion into the field. One foot on the gas, one on the brake. This is why you can do everything right, visualize, affirm, meditate, and still feel stuck. Because while your actions align with your desires, your energetic identity is still loyal to your past. And the quantum field, always precise, reflects not your effort, but your essence. Let's make this clear. You say you want abundance, but you still decide from scarcity. You say you're ready for love, but you still fear being truly seen. You say you want freedom, but you still feel guilty when you rest. This is the mismatch, and it's not about blaming yourself. It's about seeing yourself fully, compassionately, honestly. Because once you see the contradiction, you can start to dissolve it. The key is coherence, emotional, mental, energetic coherence. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions vibrate in harmony, not just once, but consistently, the quantum field responds instantly, not always with fireworks, but with shifts, real ones, subtle, powerful, unmistakable. You begin to notice changes in how you speak, in what you allow, in the way your body relaxes in spaces you once shrank from, in how people respond to you. Not because they changed, but because your energy did. And this isn't just theory. Studies in quantum coherence, heart-brain synchronization, and frequency entrainment prove that our inner state shapes external reality. This isn't magic, it's physics. A heart in gratitude emits a measurable field of coherence that influences matter. A brain tuned to theta waves taps into non-local intelligence. A body free from survival stress becomes a channel of creation, not reaction. So ask yourself now, where am I still sending mixed signals? What version of me do I default to when no one's watching? What belief am I still fueling with my attention, my habits, my doubt? Because the field doesn't just respond to your highs, it hears your lows. It picks up on the parts of you think go unnoticed. It reflects not what you claim to want, but what you deep down believe you're allowed to have. And for many, that's the toughest pill to swallow. They don't truly feel safe getting what they desire, not because they're weak, but because they've been wired to survive without it. And having it would mean letting go of the identity they hid behind. So here's your invitation. Let yourself grieve that old self. Let yourself mourn the part of you that believed waiting was safer than receiving. And then step, one energetic step at a time, not into action but into alignment. Because the second you stop clinging to the old story, you free the field to build the new one. And that's where we go next. What happens right before the shift, and why so many mistake that moment for a breakdown, when it's really the breakthrough. There's a stage in quantum manifestation almost no one mentions. It's not glamorous. It's not packed with signs and synchronicities. In fact, it often feels like the opposite, like everything's falling apart, like nothing's working, like you're farther from your dreams than ever. And this is where most people walk away. They call it failure, they call it being off track. But it's neither. It's the collapse point, the exact instant the old timeline crumbles and the new one hasn't yet solidified. You're not being punished, you're not messing up, you're in the in-between, the quantum void. And in that void, it's normal to feel ungrounded. You might face confusion, exhaustion, even sorrow, not because something's wrong, but because your nervous system is releasing a reality it once thought was vital. You're breaking free from the gravity of your old self, and like a ship leaving Earth's orbit, you need extra power to escape. Here's the catch. The more aligned you get, the harder your old identity clings. Why? Because the ego can't handle uncertainty, and the quantum field, the realm of all possibility, is pure uncertainty. It's shapeless, open, boundless, to the part of you that craves control. That's terrifying. But to the part of you that knows, it's where you belong. So how do you move through this space? First, by realizing this breakdown isn't chaos. It's recalibration. Your energetic blueprint is updating. Synapses are rewiring. Emotional baselines are adjusting. Your frequency is rising. And with it, the people and patterns that no longer resonate begin to fade. Not because they're wrong, but because they're complete. This is when reality starts testing your alignment. Not with obstacles, but with echoes. Old triggers resurface. Familiar distractions return. And here's the catch. They feel familiar, safe, even comforting. But they're not invitations. They're chances to choose again. To choose presence over habit, stillness over reaction, faith over force. And this choice isn't made once. It's made over and over. In silence, in discomfort, in solitude. You're not being asked to be perfect. You're being asked to trust your new identity, even before the proof appears. Because the field doesn't shift when the desire is intense. It shifts when the identity is unshakable. And this reveals one of the most powerful truths in manifestation. You don't receive your desire when you crave it deeply enough. You receive it when you no longer need it to define you. When you no longer use it as proof of your worth. When you no longer seek it to validate yourself. When you simply become the version of you who lives that reality. From that place, the quantum field isn't delivering something new. It's just mirroring what you've already claimed. So what does this look like in practice? It means sitting with discomfort without calling it failure. It means holding your frequency when the outside world doesn't reflect it yet. It means trusting the breakdown, because only when the old dissolves can the new emerge. And that's when the subtle shifts begin. You speak differently, you breathe deeper, you notice signs you once missed. You take aligned action without hesitation. You stop forcing, and things start flowing. Not because the universe shifted, but because you did. And here's a powerful practice for this stage. When doubt arises, don't resist it. Observe it, bless it, and say aloud, "This is the part of me that's fading, so the true me can rise." Because when you name the echo, it loses its grip. You're not collapsing, you're shedding. You're not lost, you're in motion. And this This is the edge of the quantum leap, where you no longer identify with the person who needed to attract the thing, but with the version already living it. Once that shift clicks into place, the field moves, reality bends. Time rearranges. Comment below. I am. Not just as words, but as a frequency. That's your vibrational declaration. Even in the void, you're no longer waiting. You are becoming. And the field is listening. By now, you've probably noticed something strange happens. Once you cross the threshold of collapse, a quiet calm begins to emerge. Not because your external world has caught up, but because your inner world no longer demands it. This is coherence. This is alignment. It's when your frequency stops seeking validation and starts radiating certainty. And when that happens, truly happens, the field begins to solidify a new reality around you, not as a reward, but as a reflection. Yet even here, in this sacred newness, many falter, not from lack of desire, but because they haven't learned to sustain the frequency they've touched. And that's the difference between a fleeting shift and lasting change. Sustaining a new frequency isn't about perfection. It's about returning. Again and again. It's about building what we might call energetic resilience. Think of it like tuning an instrument. Tune a violin once, and it may sound beautiful for a while, but with time, with pressure, with use, it slips. The strings loosen, the tone falters, and unless you retune, the clarity fades. Your frequency is no different. You might reach a moment of perfect alignment through meditation, gratitude, or visioning, and feel unstoppable, but life goes on. People challenge you, emotions surge, doubts creep in, and without conscious retuning, you slide back into old vibrations. So how do you stay in tune? It starts with frequency hygiene. Just as you brush your teeth daily, you must tend to your energy daily. This isn't about obsessing over vibration, but maintaining a relationship with it. What are you consuming? What are you rehearsing in your mind? What are you tolerating that clashes with your chosen reality? Your thoughts aren't neutral. They are commands. Your focus isn't accidental. It's a signal to the field. Your self-talk isn't just private. It's a transmission. If your inner world doesn't mirror the reality you want, you're not manifesting. You're reliving the past. Here's where it gets truly quantum. The field doesn't just respond to energy. It responds to the consistency of energy, to the vibrational pattern that's reinforced, layered, repeated. This is how realities stabilize, not by wishing harder, but by sustaining longer. Think about it. A faint radio signal flickers in and out, but a strong, steady frequency cuts through the static. It breaks through the noise. It locks onto a station and holds tight. Your desires aren't seeking intensity. They're seeking consistency. Can you maintain the signal? Can you keep the tone clear even when reality hasn't caught up? This is where most people quit, not because they failed, but because they stopped transmitting. They looked around, saw no proof, and assumed nothing was happening. But quantum manifestation isn't like planting a seed and watching it grow in real time. It's like planting in a dimension where time moves differently, where the harvest already exists. But your frequency must walk the path of alignment to reach it. And that path is built by daily choices. You choose your station with every reaction, every emotional response, every word you speak, every boundary you keep, every moment you decide to remember who you are, not who you were. And let's be clear, remembering your new self isn't denying the present. It's creating the next one. That's how reality shifts, not by fixing the old scene, but by outgrowing it, vibrationally. When you stay in frequency long enough, the old chapter simply stops making sense. It fades not with drama, but with disinterest. It just no longer feels real. You wake up one day and realize the thing you once begged for, you now expect. The version of you who used to chase, you now become. The energy you once reached for, you now emit. And when that happens, the quantum field doesn't just respond, it recalibrates. The opportunities, people, timing, circumstances, they don't arrive by luck. They were always there. You simply tuned into the version of reality where they exist. So if you're in that in-between space now, where the old world feels distant, but the new one hasn't fully arrived, know this: you're not stuck, you're settling in. And the more you return to your chosen frequency, the faster the field locks onto your new path. It's not magic, it's physics. Consciousness narrows possibility, and coherence secures it. In the next and final part of this journey, we'll explore what it truly means to live from the quantum, where you no longer need to manifest anything, because you've become the version of you who already has it. There comes a moment in every spiritual evolution when you stop chasing the outcome and start embodying the energy. You realize that what you once called manifestation was in truth a bridge to remembrance. You weren't attracting the thing, you were awakening to the version of you who already lived within it. And this changes everything, because suddenly your life stops being a problem to solve and becomes a frequency to express. This is the state mystics, sages, and quantum scientists alike have pointed to. As Dr. Joe Dispenza says, when you change your energy, you change your life. And when you live from that energy consistently, not conditionally, not occasionally, but as your new identity, you dissolve the line between desire and reality. What you want isn't summoned, it's matched. What you long for isn't requested, it's remembered. And this is the final leap in quantum manifestation. You stop trying to manifest because you've become the living proof of the field's response. Think about this. A magnet doesn't strain to attract, it just does. A tuning fork doesn't plead to resonate, it simply does. The sun doesn't justify its warmth, it just shines. When you live as the version of you who already has, already knows, already vibrates, you become a living coherence field, and the quantum responds, not because you're forcing it, but because you've aligned with it. This is why spiritual wisdom has always spoken of surrender, not as weakness, but as the path to power, because in surrender, you release resistance. You loosen your grip on how. You stop performing for the universe and start flowing with it. You don't broadcast effort, you broadcast essence, and that signal is undeniable. From this place, manifestation becomes less about asking and more about receiving, less about proving and more about allowing. You don't hustle for worthiness, you rest in it. You don't track results, you trust momentum. You don't chase timing, you become timeless. And the most beautiful part, this isn't just for monks or mystics. It's yours, right now, in the ordinary sacred breath you're taking, in the choice to let go of needing and step into knowing, in the moment you stop defining yourself by your past and start creating from infinite potential. But here's the truth. You'll forget. We all do. You'll have days where the old self resurfaces, where doubt drowns out destiny, where nothing seems to move. And that's okay, because forgetting doesn't undo the shift. It just calls you to remember again. And with each remembering, your signal grows stronger, your identity sharpens, your alignment turns magnetic. That's why we're here. not just to teach or speak or create content, but to build a resonance field with you, a space where your frequency steadies, where your remembering is held, where you're not just witnessing transformation, you're being it. So as we close, take a breath and feel this truth. Everything you want already exists in the quantum field. It's not waiting to be made. It's waiting to be seen, met, lived. You are the bridge. You are the conduit. You are the field. Comment below, I am. If you're ready to dissolve the illusion of separation and embody the you who already has it all, that one phrase becomes your anchor, your declaration to the universe, your invitation for reality to meet you where you stand. And if something in you has stirred, opened or aligned during this, know this isn't the end. It's a recalibration, a continuation, and you're not meant to walk it alone. Subscribe, not just for more content, but to deepen your coherence with every story, every lesson, every transmission we share. You've entered the field. Now let the field answer.